how's everybody doing today? I want to thank all of you for coming, and I mean all of you. Excuse me while we don't have a clock right now, so I just keep the time here. Okay, so just to let everybody know, I'm officially a UTS student. I'm going for my master's degree in religious education, so be prepared to be educated. So today's service is going to be a little bit different from a normal sermon. I'm going to ask a series of questions. Don't be afraid to answer the questions and everything. And if you, when you want to answer the question, don't call it out. Hold up your hand, and I will call upon you, just like in a regular classroom. Okay, now the first question that I'm going to ask, I don't want you to answer this first question. And the reason why I don't want you to answer it is because I'm going to ask the same question at the end of the service. And that way, one of two things will happen. You'll know that I'm coming to the end of the sermon when I ask the question. So basically, I want you to keep this question in the back of your mind, and then just leave it there until the end of the sermon, because after the sermon, the answer to the question might be quite differently than what you think it would be at the beginning of the sermon. Are you ready for the question?
Yeah.
Now remember, don't call it out, don't answer it. Just keep it in the back of your mind. Do you believe in fairies? That's the question. Now keep that in the back of your mind. Okay. So, the purpose of my sermon, or the topic of my sermon, as Reverend Gavin said, is God's purpose of restoration, or review. Now, when I was pulling up the quotes, just to let you know, when I was looking for the quotes, and I went on the internet, this is easy. Everybody knows God's purpose of restoration. That's divine principles. That's like 3-day workshop stuff. And I pulled up and I started looking, and I'm going, wow. And it's not a good wow. It's like, wow, there's nothing really on the internet about it. This is kind of interesting. So divine principles talks about the providence of restoration, but it doesn't really talk about the purpose of restoration. So, question number 1. What is God's purpose of restoration? Anybody? Nobody? Yes? Okay, Dr. Hendricks.
To fulfill the purpose of creation.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Not quite. Dorothy?
Sounds like a bee.
God and man.
To what?
Give joy to God and man.
That's the purpose of creation. That's the purpose of creation. We're talking about the purpose of restoration.
Oh.
Okay, Linda.
To restore God's love and joy between man and God.
That's kind of falls under the mission of the Messiah. And
We can do it.
Dr. Wilson.
Bring us back to the point before the fall where we can receive the Messiah and be reborn to God's lineage.
That's the closest one. That's the closest answer. To summarize it, the purpose of restoration is to bring humankind. I have to use the word humankind because I don't want to say mankind because I don't want to offend the womankind of the audience. So humankind. The purpose of restoration is to restore humankind back to the stage that Adam and Eve were at before the fall. This is God's purpose of restoration, is to restore humankind back to its original state. Okay. Now, when I was researching through this, the only things I found actually that talked about this was amazingly in the Divine Principles 6-hour lecture and the Divine Principle 2-hour lecture, where it said the purpose of creation is to restore, to just determine the purpose of restoration. That was the only places. I actually went to the Brown book, the Divine Principle book, and I started looking up in there, what's the purpose of restoration? And I couldn't find anything. And finally, I went back to the original the first copy of the first edition of the Divine Principles, printed by my parents and Young and Kim back in 1960, the first edition of the Divine Principle, the 1960 edition, which was changed after the second edition, the third edition. And in that, and this is the quote that I have here, the divine ideal of creation was to see that Adam and Eve should become perfect and attain the stage of divine spirit, that they produce sinless children, and that they should dominate the whole universe, responding to God's love with the utmost beauty and glory. Okay, so I'm jumping ahead of myself a little bit because I was going to ask the second question. Okay, so we know that we want to restore humankind back to the original state that Adam and Eve were before the fall of man. So, what was God's 3 blessings to Adam and Eve? I mean, this is basic. What was it? Hands? Show hands? Adam?
Be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion.
Oh, okay. Have dominion over what?
Creation.
Okay. Have dominion over creation. Now, here's the tricky part. This was the part that I was trying to find. It does not say in the Bible to have dominion over creation. It says in the Bible that you rule over the fish. Okay, I got the quote here. God blessed them and said to them, this is Genesis 1:28, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and every living creature that moves on the ground. So what God is saying is, he's saying rule over the earth. Okay? So, but in Divine Principles, we say that the 3 blessings is ruling over creation. Which creation? There's 2 creations. God created 2 creations. He created, in the beginning, he created heaven and the earth. Spirit world is a creation. It's part of creation. So, was God intending man just to rule physical world? No, he wasn't. He wasn't. He wanted him to be ruled all over creation. Now, this is really faith-shaking. So quite honestly, because I was expecting to go on the internet and find dozens of things saying, the Divine Principle says, the 3 blessings is be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion over creation. But it doesn't say that. And this is based on the Bible. Now, I completely understand why in the Old Testament it says to rule over the earth, to subjugate over the earth. It's the reason why it's like because from the time of Adam and Eve, and I don't want to get into, I cannot, when I'm giving sermons, I cannot talk about God's sorrow. Because if I start talking about God's sorrow, I have to cry. So, but I will say this, okay? At the time of Adam and Eve, when they fell, it was like a nightmare to them. Because Adam and Eve's spiritual senses were completely open. They could see angels. They could talk to angels. That's what the big difference between us and Adam and Eve before the fall was that they were able to see creation, the physical and the spiritual creation. Now, when they fell, their spiritual world went into a black nightmare. If you could imagine seeing everything in bright as day, but it's got this black shadow on it. So at that point, God had to cut off their spiritual senses. He had to. If he didn't, it would go crazy. They would go insane. It would be a nightmare. So this was the Garden of Eden. Being able to be spiritually open and see and talk to angels was the Garden of Eden that is talked about in the Bible. When God drove Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden and put the flaming cherubim up, that wasn't a literal garden. What that is that's talking about God cutting off his spiritual senses. And mankind's spiritual senses. So God had to cut off their spiritual senses. Now, back to why does it say God said unto them, be fruitful, and then fill the earth and subdue the earth, rule over the sea, fish in the sea, and the birds in the skies, and over every living creature that moves on the ground. Why do they not mention being rulers of spirit world? Because at the time when they wrote the Bible, they were not aware of spirit world. It's like trying to ask a blind man to describe color. They haven't seen color. They don't know what color looks like. They've experienced it, and so they know they experienced color in some ways, but they don't know what color is because they've never seen it. So the people that they were inspired to write the Bible have never experienced or actually understand about spirit world because they have been spiritually closed off from spirit world. So mankind has been for 6,000 years in the dark about the spirit world. This is a very big thing. The only people, now occasionally we have people who become spiritually open. And what happens to them? They either start religious movements or are considered prophets, or they're considered insane and put in mental institutions. What? You talked to your grandmother? She's been dead for 5 years. How can you do that? You must be crazy. So being spiritually open has really been frowned upon in society. And I have a theory about atheism, about why people become atheists. The reason why my theory is the reason why people become atheists is because they had some sort of spiritual experience in their life just scared them. I'd like to say it scared the hell out of them, but it scared the heaven out of them. It didn't scare the hell out of them. It scared the heaven out of them. So they have to come up with some sort of justification why this happened. Why did this happen? Oh, it was my imagination. It was gas. It was my imagination. Brothers and sisters, I have a proclamation, an announcement to tell you today. This is something I've been saying for years, and I'm going to share with you right now. There is no such thing as imagination. What you imagine is spirit world. Our thoughts, our ideas, our creativity, our dreams. This is all our connection to spirit world. Even though we're not spiritually open, we're still connected to spirit world. So, back to this. So I understand why they said, oh, God, because they weren't thinking about the angels or spirit world. There's a vast, spirit world is vast and numerous as physical world with spiritual beings, spiritual entities. We just talk about angels because those are the ones that we've dealt with the most. The angels are the messengers from God, and they're the higher. But there's no such thing as imagination. So all the stories that you've heard about fairies.
What do the fairies work for?
The fairies?
Yeah.
I'll get to that. I'll get to that. Okay. So we got fairies, all these stories, fairies, brownies, dwarfs, all these elemental things, dryads. They're all actual spiritual creation. They do exist. Okay? J.K. Rowling was talking about, how she was inspired for her books was when she was a child. She used to go to this forest and she used to, have these imaginary things happening to her. So, the fulfillment of the third blessing is that we have to have dominion over all of creation. Not just physical earth. We have to have dominion over the spiritual creation too. We have to have dominion over the angels. And this is what Father actually has kind of talked around. He hasn't been focusing specifically on it. In the divine principles, when we grew up, we have not been focused specifically on it. And there's a good reason. Because up until the time of Father's ascension, spirit world has been dangerous. It can mislead you, and if you didn't understand it, it could mislead you. It could just, take you in the wrong direction. There's been so many instances of people who have, been misled by spirit world. And this is the reason why we have to be careful about it. This is why Father has not been opening people's spiritual senses. So, was Father spiritually open? Quite so. He talked to Jesus. He talked to God. Was Jesus spiritually open? Yes, he was. He was able to talk to the tempted by the devil, and he conversed with Moses and the other leaders, and then everything. Were the early disciples of Christianity spiritually open? Yes, they were. So these things, being spiritually open, is actually at this point now that Father has ascended to it, and he can open dominion of the spirit world. And everything, and take dominion over the spirit world. He can take dominion and rule over the angelic world. We have not been in that position yet, that we can do that. Everybody in here has an angel. Everybody has an angel that is assigned to them to help protect them, to help guide them. The purpose of the angels, the high angels, is that they are the knowledge. They are the source of knowledge. All the knowledge that we're searching for in the world is in spirit world. When we receive something, when we invent something, is that coming from our mind? No, that's coming from spirit world. Over the last 200 years, we've been evolving, God, and we just, if you look at the bell curve in technology, it's going like, you know? And I heard before that if Jesus was accepted at that time, we could have been, if Adam and Eve hadn't fallen, we could have been in the stage that we are now in 200 years of Adam and Eve. We could have expanded that quickly. And we're not even at the level where we could be at right now. So, we have to be aware of spirit world around us. We have to be aware that the spirit world is vast, and we have to be aware of the fact that we need to be subject over spirit world. This is completely contradictory to the teachings of Christianity and a lot of religions up until now. They've always held, and this is divine principle, like 3-day workshop stuff, they've always held that the up until now, is that the hierarchy is God, the angels, then man. Okay, this is from the fall, the reversal of dominion. So we have to be subjects over. We have to be subjects over spirit world, and we have to be aware that we are subject over spirit world. So, the purpose of, so back to the thing, what is God's purpose of restoration? The purpose of restoration is that we have to come back to the point that Adam and Eve were at before the fall. What was the point that Adam and Eve were at before the fall? They were spiritually open. They could talk to the angels, they could talk to creation. They were able to talk to angels and see things. Okay, so now, I was going to mention, this could be a short service or it could be a long service, depending on how well people answer the questions. And so, I'm going to go back now to the original question I asked. Do you believe in fairies? So, that's the original question. Yes?
Can you please define a fairy? Tinkerbell.
Fairies?
Define fire.
Who did the word fairy?
Okay. All right. I'm going to answer Andrew's question. Okay. Brothers and sisters, fairies do exist. Brothers and sisters, do not mess around with fairies. The reason you do not want to mess around with fairies is because fairies are for children. If you are not a child or childish, the fairies will not like you. And fairies do bite. And they do exist. So the thing is everybody thinks of fairies, but fairies they're part of the angelic world. I mean, they have whole websites that just talks about the different types of angelic beings and spiritual beings that exist. But that's another lecture. I mean, you could go into like days talking about the different types of angelic beings because we're not there yet. So don't worry. So the reason why we don't want our spiritual senses open up at this time is to little things like fairies. Yeah, fairies are real, but don't mess around with them because unless you're a child, because they like to play, and if you don't want to play, it's like a cat or something, or something like a pet. If you mess around with a pet and you're not in the mood, it can bite you. I'm not comparing them to animals because they're smart, but they're made for children. Now, for all the parents here, which most everybody's here is a parent, some are children, and everything. Since we've received the blessing, have we become spiritually open? Have we been able to see spirit world? Have we been able to talk to spirit world? No. Have your children been able to be spiritually open? Are we aware of this?
Sometimes more than we want to.
Yes. Our children are spiritually open. Speaking for myself, my kids used to go out in the woods over here and play with fairies. And play with spiritual animals. They could see them. So what do? What's this culture and society? Oh, that's cute. You're playing with imaginary friends or imaginary animals. Oh, a fox? Oh, a spiritual fox? Oh, sure. That's wonderful. That's nice. There's no such thing as imagination, brothers and sisters. And just please be aware in everything, because like I said, so many times in our church and outside, when people become spiritually open, we denounce them. We tell them they're crazy. They tell themselves they're crazy and everything. So we don't want to do that. We want to be aware that maybe, perhaps, our children are fulfilling God's purpose of restoration. So, I think that just about wraps it up. That was the point that I wanted to make. And if you will please join me in prayer. Our most loved Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for the blessings and guidance and living at this time, Father, that you were able to send the Messiah, Father, and that we were able to come to this new age, Father, where we can bring our lives back to you, that we can be able to live our lives centered on you, Father, and that you can finally, Father, attain your purpose of restoration that you've been waiting for 6,000 years, Father, for. That your children can walk in the Garden of Eden once again, Father, and they can communicate directly to you, Father. This is what we've been waiting for. This is what you've been waiting for. And I pray, Father, that you can please be with each and every of these brothers and sisters, and that you can please let you know that you love them, Father, and that creation loves them, Father. And we hope that we can be able to just start becoming aware of your purpose, Father, of what you expect of us, Father. Our true parents have led us to this point. They've brought us into this point where we can start receiving these things. But we hope that we can be able to really realize it's going to take generations before it's attained. But the seed has been planted, Father. The seed has been planted and it's starting to grow. And we hope that it can grow and that we can be able to truly have heaven on earth once again. I report these things in the name of Lloyd Newcope Humphrey, a blessed family. Amen.